Hi, it's WRandiDukoff here, and I am so glad you joined me for this webinar tonight so we can get to the root cause of your struggles. If you've been on multiple diets throughout your life, think the changes in your body are inevitable and have something to do with your age, have been told lower energy, more weight, and mental fogginess happens over time, you feel you can't eat like you used to and still maintain your weight, or you've changed eating and fitness behaviors, but you're still not seeing results, then you're in exactly the right place. Reed Davis from Functional Diagnostic Nutrition is here with me to address the hidden stressors that may be plaguing you and keeping you from having the energy and weight that you dream of. Reed is a certified nutritional therapist and founder of the Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Certification course and self-care program. Reed is known as one of the most successful and experienced clinicians in the world today, having provided functional lab assessments to over 10,000 clients for hormone levels, adrenal function, digestive problems, immune system, and detoxification issues, as well as testing for infections, infestations, food sensitivities, and many related health problems. His system of natural holistic protocols are now known all over the world and have helped thousands of people to regain health. And tonight, Reed is going to share all of his insights and best practices to help you get to the root cause of what's keeping you from the results that you want. So Reed, welcome, and I'm so happy to have you here.
Randy, thank you so much for having me on. It's a real pleasure to talk to this audience tonight and hope we can help. And like you say, I've been doing this an awful long time. Out of respect for people's time tonight, I just want to jump right into it. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right, fantastic. So what I'm going to do now is turn to the presentation. You let me know if you could see that on my screen there. It says, hidden stressors. Are they causing your weight gain, lack of focus, and cravings? Presented by Reed Davis and WRandiDukoff. So with that great introduction you did, let's just go ahead, okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so like Randy said, folks, this is for you if you've tried multiple diets but still struggle, or exercise doesn't seem to do the trick. Maybe you don't even feel like exercising. You get up in the morning, you got this lack of focus, or might happen to you in the afternoons. You got the ability, or you don't have enough ability to think clearly. You might be slow to get started. You fade fast during the day. It's hard to control cravings. You know, sometimes willpower just isn't enough. Or you're just someone who has some health problems and you're on information overload, which is so common today, Randy. And I hope you'll just jump in anytime. We want to make this real interactive and friendly. So this is for you. And what I'd like to ask the audience to do right now is if one of these things is bothering you, please feel free to just sort of jump in there and say, yeah, that's me. You know, you can type in the chat box. And by the way, I have staff on the line here too. We'll be taking your questions. So anything that pops up for you, you jump right in there and put it in the chat box, okay? So if you got one of those problems, just say, yeah, I've got all of them. We actually get people like that. So what you're going to learn tonight is that every symptom, no matter what it is, has a hidden stressor. And you're going to learn how to find and correct those hidden stressors. Those are the health problems, or at least the root cause of almost every condition we find out there. And it's actually pretty easy to do when you know which steps to take. It's not rocket science. And people like Randy and I have been doing this a long, long time and have found some things that actually work. And that you have choices. You're going to learn whether you want to pick self-care or medical care. Actually, when to make that decision, because sometimes people need both. And, you know, we're not in competition with physicians, but we do want to make sure you know that you've got choices. And it basically boils down to this. You can opt in now while you're still breathing and you're not all like in a wheelchair and in the hospital with tubes in your arms and things like that. You can opt in now to self-care. Or guess what? You're going to be forced in later to what we just call a disease care model. You see there are the drugs and the surgery and things like that. So that's what waits for us if we don't take care of ourselves. Right, Randy?
Absolutely. And it's amazing that the choices you make in finding all of this out now has such an impact on your future.
Yeah, you just, you know, you can bank every single day something that keeps you headed in the right direction. And so I want to give you a little bit about my background here. Randy told you that I've run a lot of tests. I actually came out of the field of environmental law, where I learned how bad the environment is and what it was doing to trees and plants and animals and things like that. And I worked in that field. It's a very rewarding field, but I started to get more concerned about people. So I changed to the health field, if you will. I took courses in nutrition. I worked with a chiropractor for years, and I became the health director and case manager at her office. We also had acupuncture and massage and nutrition and all kinds of modalities and things. I was very, very fortunate to be there and able to work on all the patients that came in. And I, even with my pretty good nutritional training, became pretty frustrated with the lack of results. So basically, as a nutritionist, I also was certified in personal training. I wasn't able to get the results that I wanted, even bringing in chiropractic and acupuncture and things. People were hitting dead ends. And I got really sick and tired of hearing, here's a person walking in the door that would say, I've already been to 6 people and I'm really giving up hope that I'm ever going to have my energy back or sleep right or, whatever the problem was. Could be a skin problem. A lot of things we mentioned and a lot of other things. And I decided I wanted to be the last person they had to see. And also, very fortunate for me and a lot of people, I ran into some good folks who were doing early stages of functional medicine. Now, as a non-licensed practitioner, as a health coach, personal trainer, and nutritionist, I couldn't prescribe anything. So I wasn't running the kind of tests where you just look, oh, your thyroid's low, here's your thyroid medication. These were tests designed to look at underlying causes and conditions. What's really going on? Now, we're going to talk about those labs in a minute. But I want to tell you, I did well over 10,000 tests, mostly on women at first, but then with some successes, they brought me their husbands, they brought me their children. So we've tested lots and lots of people. And what our work is all about is the observations that I made as an honest researcher. Remember, I came out of legal research and writing, and that really sharpens your research skills, let me tell you. And I was able to apply those skills to the health and wellness industry. I made my own observations about who was getting better and who wasn't. And it should be no surprise to anyone on this call, any friend of Randy's knows that the people working closest to the underlying cause, those are the ones that actually restored their health. They were able to stop just chasing symptoms. And so this became so big and so successful that I had to give it a name. And so basically, I'm known for developing the Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Program. And I even teach a course in it now that I'm sort of deputizing FDN practitioners all over the world. And the protocols that obviously go along with this investigative process, we call the Dress for Health Success Program. You'll learn real soon here that stands for diet, rest, and exercise, and stress reduction and supplementation. So it's an amazing program, well developed and well proven now to work in almost 50 countries where we're doing this. So I want to give you guys some hope that there's people like me and others that have decided, we're going to put an end to all this, the trial and error that the public's going through with their health problems. Literally, I help thousands and thousands of people get to the root cause instead of treating symptoms, and developed an amazing system. So that's just a little bit about my background. And I want to tell you that, again, these people, like just regular folks, walking in the door. They'd already seen 3, 4, 5, or 8 people, spent a lot of money, and they would start sort of telling me their life story. And almost no matter what they were saying, I found what they really wanted to know. They're looking to me for, do you know what's really wrong with me? I'm sick and tired of the runaround. People that just want to sell me a product or write me a prescription or, stick something in me or something like that. And so they're tired of that runaround chasing and managing symptoms. And so I learned to be able to say, yes, I know what's really wrong with you. There are malfunctions and interferences that lead to your symptoms. And obviously, and you can see it in their eyes, can you help me? Well, if you're willing to hire a health detective, yeah, I think so. What I learned to do, and again, teach all over the world now, is identifying healing opportunities that once you find them, then you can work on what's really wrong. You simply restore normal function and health returns. So yes, if you're willing to do a little work, we can help you. And then, of course, have you helped others like me? Again, somewhere in the conversation, this is what would come up. So I learned to say yes to all three of those things. And if your practitioner that you're working with doesn't say yes to, I mean, you might as well, forget the life story, walk in there, and go, do you know what's wrong with me? Can you help me? Have you helped others like me? Because that's how you're going to get to the bottom line. And so, personally, I've helped tens of thousands, supervised many more, and our family of practitioners is growing really, really strong. And I have some of the best in the world actually work for me. So I learned to say yes to all these things, so I think I can help you. And this is kind of what we were up against, and you can raise your hand, or don't be afraid to type in the chat box. Let us know that we've got a good, lively live audience. If I was standing in front of you, as I've done so many times with groups, I'd have you raising your hand, looking around, and giving the nod to each other. And we've all kind of been to the doctor, and he's running our blood work, and we have those symptoms that we talked about, the fatigue and the weight gain, and you're not sleeping right, and you don't have enough energy to exercise. It actually makes you feel worse sometimes to exercise and these kind of things. And they tell you still that your blood work looks normal. Now, Randy, what do you think about that? How many times have you been asked, told that by a client?
So many times. It's too many times, and unfortunately, blood work looking normal or something being all in your head is the worst answer you can get, because I think people start to doubt themselves. They get more concerned that something's really wrong because they wouldn't feel like this, yet the doctor's telling them it's all okay and normal. It's constant.
And they also might have a third party in their someone else who's supposed to be the support person. They start to sort of get down on a bit. Hey, the doctor said nothing's wrong with you, so what's the problem here? So it really is a bad place to start. And we know that even if they do say, they might say everything looks normal, but since you have headaches, here's something for you. Take some aspirin. If you're fatigued, drink a cup of coffee, or obviously there are prescription stimulants as well. But we know that headaches aren't a sign of aspirin deficiency, and so on, as you have been reading the screen here. So what we know now is that symptoms aren't the problem. They're just a result of the real problem, which is some type of dysfunction and hidden stress. So you were going to say something, Randy?
No, I just said right. I agree.
Yeah, right. See, so now those original things we talked about, the weight issues, and you're fading fast in the afternoon, or you just can't get rolling in the morning, you got the foggy thinking and things. If you have those things, you probably also have some of these. In other words, these might not be your number one complaint, or there might be, but people with those kind of complaints, they have these things too. And these are all the result of chronic hidden stress. And we call them chronic hidden stress-related dysfunctions. That's what's at the root of these things. So what we need is to understand what these hidden stressors are. Now, that acronym, if you will, HIDDEN, stands for the stressors and dysfunctions that are at the root of most common health complaints. The hormone system, the immune system, digestive system, detoxification system, energy production system, and last but not least, the nervous systems. Those 6 systems is what I discovered in my 15 years of running thousands and thousands of labs and helping people. These are the main sort of pillars. Now, it covers a lot of ground. And you might have someone else say, well, what about this and what about that? Yeah, okay. But if you investigate these areas and uncover the true healing opportunities, malfunctions, then you have a chance of actually restoring your health, working a self-care model and avoiding that disease care model. So what we need is a new way of looking at disease. And Randy, what's that big organ in your skull that allows you to think called?
My brain.
Yeah, brain. Most people have one. So the brain is connected to the body, and it communicates through various systems or elements. We have the blood, we have the nerves, we have energy, and the purpose of that communication is the all-important function. And a basic premise of our work, and Randy, you know this through and through, we want to make sure that everyone understands this, that we're designed well. So your cells don't have to be taught what their job is. They're really programmed for 100% normal function. And that's good. And that would be a person in a state of ease. If you're functioning normally, your cells, your tissues, your organs like the heart, lungs, kidneys, pancreas, adrenals, ovaries, testes, if you got them, if they're functioning normally in a state of ease, would you be healthy, Randy?
Oh my gosh, you would just walk around and not think about it or feel things that you shouldn't be feeling.
You would
Headaches.
yeah, you would have an abundance of health. But that's not how people come to us. They actually come to us with symptoms. Well, what's wrong with this picture? A person functioning normally in a state of ease wouldn't have symptoms. So we understand then that there must be a dis-ease process of some sort. I think that's where the word disease comes from. And how would you have that if you didn't have some loss of normal function? Your cells or tissues or organs or systems, the organism itself sometimes is not functioning at 100%. And therefore, it's not normal. And while symptoms, I'm telling you, I don't know how many times I've heard someone say, well, my doctor says my headaches are normal. My skin condition is normal. I'm only 42, I have to have a hysterectomy, and the doctor says that's normal. I guarantee it's not normal. It's just common. Symptoms are common, but they aren't normal, so don't let anyone tell you that, please. That's my rant for the day.
And the other thing many people come to me saying is, I know it's inevitable because of my age. So if they start talking to me about having weight gain or lack of energy, they're told it's their age and they have to just adjust. This is their new normal, which is so not true.
It's so just disheartening sometimes what people get used to. And I recall a man who said that his left knee was hurting. And I said, well, what's the problem? He goes, well, it's just getting old. I said, wasn't your right knee the same age? So, it's just that kind of a thing. How can one part be working good and another one's not? It's not just your age. Look, I'm 62. I know I sound like a kid. I get told, that all the time. But I'm 62 years old next month. I feel like a kid, but, I think it's just partly what you think. And we're going to talk about that too. So symptoms are common. They're not normal. People come in for those symptoms, though. Very rarely does someone walk in and say, I'm perfectly fine, I'm functioning normally in a state of ease, but I want you to check me out, It just doesn't happen much. And people come in instead for relief care. That's getting rid of the symptoms. And they usually think that you're going to sell them some pills. If you're going to a doctor, he's going to write you a prescription and take care of the symptoms, which is not a bad thing. I don't want you to think it's us versus them, versus doctors or something. Getting some relief care can be very, very important for your daily routine and things like that. But is anything changed here in this picture in terms of malfunction and disease? Not at all. And what happens if you don't fix what's really wrong is you end up needing more intensive relief care. So people stay on pills for a while. Oh, hey, they're not working anymore on my gallbladder, let's say, so take the gallbladder out. Oh, the pills aren't working on my ovaries anymore, so take the ovaries out. And might as well take that uterus out with it since you won't be using that anymore. And so what I say to patients like that is, hey, don't tell those doctors you have headaches. So, what we now know is that symptoms are a signal that something's wrong. There's no such thing as a normal symptom. And they may go away or decrease with relief care, but they will come back with a vengeance or appear as new symptoms. What we do instead is focus on the underlying causes of disease while providing some intelligent relief care. So, we do relief care too, but try to just the very minimal amount so that we can work on what's really wrong, which is usually some form of distress, whether it be mental, emotional, the way you perceive things, or it could be biomechanical trauma, just built up trauma in your body from accidents or just weaknesses, and you're sitting in a chair all day and you don't have good body balance. But more important, I think, than any of those is this biochemical, physiological, the hidden stressors that we're going to talk about. So in my world, and what I created was a system to really focus on identifying the true healing opportunities and help body to regain normal function. Now look at the circle in the middle, function. When that returns to normal, by removing the hidden stressors and building up the functions that have been damaged, the body returns to a state of ease. You don't need the relief care anymore. Health is restored, symptoms disappear. And I've seen complaints that are quite serious. I mean, medical diagnosis. People are getting treated for years for stuff. And I've seen those things be completely resolved when the person takes the right steps. And so as practitioners, we have to know which steps to take our clients through. So that's a new way of looking at disease. What you just learned is that symptoms are always the last thing to appear in a disease process, and that there's malfunction. So now I think we have mostly ladies here, and you can, again, put some stuff in the chat room for me. Let me know who's out there, because I can't see you, and I wish I could. One of these hidden stressful areas that we sort out, and just about every person, you want to check hormones. You want to look at the thyroid, the adrenal glands, the ovaries, testes, if you got them, the pancreas and things. These are really, really critical. You can't be healthy if your hormones aren't balanced. And what you're going to see in a minute is that you can't just treat the hormones individually either. You got to look at the whole complexity of the thing, just the whole person, a very holistic approach. And hormones, as you know, are secreted in the right amount at the right times for proper function, whether it has to do with weight regulation or energy, mental emotional stability, sleep, sexual performance and satisfaction, these kind of things. It's got to be right. And it's an area that the world kind of beats us up in these areas. Another thing we see all the time is the immune system. It gets way overactive. You can have parasites, bacteria, fungus, all kinds of things. And these things in really tiny amounts in a really healthy person probably wouldn't bother a lot of people. So you might have heard a physician or someone say that, well, everyone's got a bug here or there, it shouldn't bother you too much, a healthy person. But when you look at the accumulation of all these things, it's throwing you out of balance. This is why we call these things opportunistic. They thrive when normal gut flora is out of balance. Like people who've taken antibiotics, for instance, you kill a lot of good flora, a lot of your good bacteria gets killed when you take those. So the opportunistic bad guys, they start to be able to overpower the good guys. It's kind of like the neighborhood is getting real crappy, and the good people don't want to live there, and the bad people love living there. And so what you might not know is that there's over 75 toxic elements. These are biotoxins, neurotoxins, and all kinds of chemicals, more or less, that are produced by those bugs. They affect your brain and how you feel and think, your body, could be pains, could be inflammation, could be skin conditions, your energy, of course, again, the way you think, and even your digestion. You could start to have diarrhea, constipation, indigestion, heartburn, bloating, and all kinds of inflammatory conditions, joint pain, muscle pain. Migraine headaches can be caused by inflammation. It's just amazing how much we find is related to having some opportunistic organisms. And another thing, of course, is you can start to, like some people, they actually are feeding these bugs. They don't know that bugs, especially fungus, that can make you want sugar. I mean, it loves sugar, and you're feeding it every time. One of the ways we get rid of yeast is to starve them out by eliminating sugar. Another thing is we have people who are going through detox programs, and they get real symptomatic. Like they often feel worse before they feel better, and that's usually triggered during the detox or some kind of treatment that we're doing as a die-off symptom. When bugs, you kill a bunch of bugs all at once, they stink up the place. You might feel bad for a day or two. Something that we would obviously want to coach you up on. Now, another thing that is really critical, one of the hidden stressors are these, they're really called oral intolerances, so food intolerances. They're not allergies, although some are. You got to see the word allergy up there. But sensitivities are much more insidious. Allergies, for the most part, if you were allergic to strawberries, you'd know it because you eat them and they interact with your immune system and you get a rash. Or a dog comes in the room and that's a true allergy when your eyes water and you start sneezing or you get itchy just almost looking at a dog, People who are dog allergic have a rough time, but there's other more insidious, so sort of less immediate sensitivities you can have. The way your body reacts is slowly, so it's very hard to put together what that food is. It might be something you ate 3 days ago, and you don't feel anything immediately, so you keep eating it because you like it, and but it is contributing to the chaos in your body. We call it metabolic chaos, but um, food intolerances and sensitivities, again, have a delayed reaction, makes them very hard to detect on your own. They create inflammation. It's real obvious with some people get them off dairy, wheat, corn, soy, sometimes rice, a couple other sort of obvious things to try. But you want to know what? You can test for 150 foods. And if we all know, one man's food is another man's poison. You could have a mother who's doing a great job, like she's going to the farmer's market and she's getting, you know, all these good vegetables and things grown without pesticides and herbicides, and yet one of her kids can like thrive on it, and the other one could be sensitive to it, and one kid's doing great, one kid's doing bad, or it could be your husband. You might want him to eat that stuff. I don't know, just to torture him. Who knows? So anyway, that's 3 things so far. Now here's another one. I'm going to do a couple more after this. But this is critical. Blood sugar imbalances. I mean, the symptoms of blood sugar problems really are a lot like hormonal problems. You could feel like, that sort of PMS type of feeling. You got the blahs. It feels hormonal. It could actually be blood sugar. So glucose levels are really, really important. We have most of our clients invest. It's like 40. You could spend more if you want to, get something fancy for $90, but for $40 or under $40, you can go to CVS. You can buy an easy glucose type meter, and you can check your. Now this is something you could write down and take home with you. If you're having any of those symptoms we talked about, start checking your blood sugar. You might be amazed that you're running a little high, and then of course insulin kicks in and it'll run low at times. But if you want to, what you want to do is check your morning blood sugar with the glucometer before you eat breakfast, and it should be under 90. Now, if it's really low, like under 80, you have low blood sugar. You might be sort of hypoglycemic. If it's higher though, and in most people we are seeing a tendency to be high, like you see on the screen there. This one says 107. If you're 107 in the morning, you have a blood sugar metabolism problem. Actually, what we call a carbohydrate metabolism issue. And that's going to cause all kinds of heck in your body. So before meals should be under 90. If it's consistently over 100, that's a BS problem, and that means blood sugar. And we'd want to work with you on that. Obviously, we can get into lots of things that would help you with your excess cortisol, which raises blood sugar, or you might have insulin resistance. Anyway, we know how to figure that out. So I think we just have this and maybe one more thing to cover. There's lots we could, but a biggie, real biggie, is your liver is congested. We find this time after time after time. People's livers get congested for a lot of reasons. For one thing, they're doing too much coffee, they're doing too much alcohol, and they're not giving their liver a break. It has to work triple time just to try to detoxify caffeine and alcohol. That's why we have you not do it for a while if you're doing our program. Maybe 1 cup in the morning is all you get for a while. But you can deal with that. And if you're pounding it down all day long, there's definitely something wrong. So the liver is the main detoxifying organ. It's the second largest organ in your body, the largest being the skin. It's actually a detoxification organ too. So are the lungs and the lymph system and the kidneys and the colon. These things detoxify and eliminate unwanted elements from the body, and some of those elements are produced in the body, and some are obviously from the environment outside the body. And these toxins, again, will clog up the liver. They mix with your immune system, and it just becomes a big mess. So we teach you how to find all the stuff in your household, in your life, in your environment that would contribute to toxic liver, and then, of course, eliminate that and fix you right up. Toxic overload is a huge hidden stressor, is kind of the bottom line here. Now, last but not least is mental emotional stress. We always want to take a look at that, because people who are always fearful, worried, have anxiety, and things like that. We do need to get that looked at. There's any matter of fact, any form of stress is going to lead to malfunction. You see at the bottom of the screen, distress, that equals dysfunction, and that equals disease, and you know where that leads to. So we definitely want to cover this stuff. Now all these elements we just talked about are the big hidden stressors. There's a few more, but any of them, any hidden stress and imbalance in one area of the body, this is critical. So everyone really focus on this, okay? If you don't soon resolve that thing, like identify it and resolve it, it will cascade into other areas. It's just how the body works. Now I love this expression, metabolic chaos ensues. So it causes serious dysfunction, as you saw in that circles diagram, and then the disease and symptoms are the last thing to occur. So we like to say, look, rather than focus on those symptoms, we're going to look upstream at all the dysfunctions in your body. So if you look at that picture there, it's a wonderful picture of some tributaries leading into a river or stream. So one of those tributaries might be your mental, emotional stress, your job and your family and your finances and all your stuff. Another one of those tributaries could be the physical. You're weak and because you're not working out right, and you're sitting in a chair and you're slumping and slouching, and pretty soon you get weak, and then you might get in a car accident or you fall down, and now you got your neck hurts and stuff. So that's another form of stress pouring into your body. The nerves, everything's affected. And third, but I think one of the most critical things are these hidden, biochemical and chemical type stressors. So they pour into your body and they crash over the rocks, like the thyroid gland and the adrenal glands and the ovaries and your digestive system and your detoxification systems. There's just all this unwanted stressors cascading into other areas and leading to this dysfunction, disease, and symptoms at the other end. So to me, and you can put this in the chat box too, just I hope one person says, makes sense to me to look upstream instead of just treating the symptoms. So that's what we do, because we know this. This is like a big thing. You look at that picture. Symptoms are what's on the surface, and the stress-related dysfunction is what's underneath that needs to be actually repaired. And the things on the right, I'm not going to read all those bullets, but that's all the stuff that our functional labs can identify. Back in the day when I was running thousands of labs in the clinic there and bringing people in from all over Southern California who were all stressed out for all different reasons and running lab after lab after lab, I learned which labs to run to identify these things. Some labs are useless. You just end up treating the paper. These are the labs, these are the functions that have to be repaired if you're going to live a healthy life. If you're going to take care of yourself, if you're going to stay in that self-care model and anti-aging and the whole thing, performance and all this stuff. So functional labs can identify these dysfunctions. And so that's our method. That's what we do. We're health detectives. We run the functional labs. We use strictly functional interpretations, which means we're not diagnosing and treating specific diseases like physicians. We're using functional interpretations of those labs to tell us what's wrong. What are the healing opportunities within those hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous systems. And again, it seems complex, but I've taken 15 years to straighten it out and be able to present it to people in a step-by-step method they can actually follow. Those hidden stressors and dysfunctions, once again, are at the root of most common health complaints. So I would just ask you, what if we found out what's going on with you? And let's look at Allison, someone who did hire us. She had a classic disease. It's called my hands are stuck to my forehead. And besides that, her main complaints were sleep, fatigue, and foggy thinking. We ran 5 labs on her because she was sick and tired of being sick and tired. She didn't want to stretch it out over, run one test and then come back in a month and run another. Just give me the test. I want to test everything. So we did, and that's a thing of beauty because we identified in one fell swoop, just like within a couple weeks, of just running some labs, some saliva, some urine, little stool, one little blood draw, and we have adrenal dysfunction, circadian rhythm hormone imbalances, maldigestion, malabsorption, With maldigestion and malabsorption, it doesn't matter how good your food is. You're not getting the nutrients in. You're not getting the right amount of protein or fat or the good carbohydrates and things. She had liver and brain detox problems. She had intestinal dysfunction, as we said, and GI pathology, which means bugs, and she had food sensitivities. So, what do you think we did? Well, actually, I'm going to show you, and that's these labs here. So, and Randy, you jump in here in a sec. I'm going to give you a chance to tell people something really critical to our work. One of the first labs we did, it's a simple saliva test. It's a snapshot of overall adaptive reserve, meaning, what do you have left in the tank to even work with? Are you really headed downhill? Are you, right on the edge there? Or do you have a lot of genetic potential and just a little tune-up? So this test can really tell us how bad it is or how good it is, what you have going for you. It guides our therapy, and it always points to the next level of investigation, and gives us a baseline to monitor changes. It's beautiful to have test results. Now hold on another sec, Randy, because I'm going to actually show a copy, and I'm not going to spend all day going over test results because it gets sort of boring for some people. They just want to be told, what do I do? What do I do? I don't want to see the test results. Well, pay attention to this because it might change your mind. Here's a cortisol sum, which is your stress hormone, and it tells us your ability to fight back in a sense. So cortisol is your stress hormone. It controls blood sugar, and in this person, you see the reference range on the right is 23 to 42. So a moderate amount would be 35. If you were under a lot of stress, it would be higher. So just take sort of the average of about 35. Now you have some stress, which who doesn't? And this lady certainly did have a ton of it, working a job, taking care of kids, all this stuff. And so it probably should have been double the 35. It should have been like 42 at least, the high end of the range. Well, look where it is. It's half of that. What does it tell you? She's no longer able to respond to whatever stressors are in her life, whether it be internal stressors or external stressors. So, for the first time in this lady's life, someone's actually looking at a test result, and Randy, here is where you can jump in and saying, you're not crazy. There really is something on paper that we're looking at here. Now, isn't that a powerful thing, Randy?
It's incredible. It just makes you feel as if you understand your body, you know what's happening, and that there's an answer. There's something you can do to correct it.
Yeah, so people want to go, God, I'm glad I'm not crazy, because they've been to their doctor and he said their blood work like normal. We're saying your tank's about half empty here, in terms of your ability to respond to stress. Now, cortisol, as you know, is made in the adrenals. That's why they generally call that adrenal fatigue. I hesitate in saying that. But here's the other thing. DHEA is also made in the adrenals. And for most of you might know what that is, but it's actually your steroid hormone. It's the parent of estrogen and testosterone, your main sex hormones. It's also made in the adrenals here. Now, it's made in some other places, but mainly the adrenals. So you look at the cortisol sum is very low, and look at the DHEA. I mean, it should be, reference range is 2 to 10. Most healthy people are going to be around a 5, 6, or 7. 10 actually is a little bit high, I think. But at 5, 6, or 7, look where it is, a 1.13. That's horrible. So you're not making any of your, the parent to your sex hormones. So how do you think that's going to affect your energy and your brain and your sex drive and all these things, So we have a person here with low adrenal hormones. The cortisol and the DHEA are both low. Now, again, you find people going, they just want to know, what do I do? What do I do? But it's first it's important to realize this stuff takes time. It took a while to get here. So we need to look at a number of things that contributed to you getting here. We don't want to just treat the paper. I could give you something to raise your cortisol. I can give you something to raise the DHA, but we need to be much smarter than that. We need to really look at the hidden stressors that got you in this shape. And here's the reason why, the biggest reason why. It's called the cortisol to DHEA ratio. The cortisol is 21. Basically, the DHEA is a little over 1. You do the math, and you come up with an 18 to 1 ratio, almost 19 to 1 ratio. So look at the reference range on the right. The ratio should be between be between 5 and 6 to 1. What that tells you is that the catabolic hormone cortisol, which is breaking your body down to make blood sugar, is way high in relationship to the DHEA, which counteracts cortisol and is there to build your body up. Remember, steroid hormones build your muscle, build your organs, they build your brain. They're really important to build up. Steroids build up. That's why athletes take steroids, because it builds them up. So this person's in a catabolic state. Their cortisol, even though it's low, is still way overpowering their DHEA. So they're in a catabolic state. So when I go over this with a lady and she thanks me for, thank God I'm not crazy, that there really is something here. Now we have a good place to start. Again, as I said in the previous slide, it tells you how sort of bad things are. It guides your therapy, because now we can start to do some things, which I know you want to find out about. But it also gives us a baseline that, hey, in 3 months we could check you again and see how you're doing. It gives us some progress here. Makes us know that you're doing what we recommend to. Now, because time is flying by here on me, and I only wanted to take up just a little less than an hour before we go to the question and answer period. So I'm going to run through this next slide. This is a little bit different of a test. It's a different person's test result, but I wanted to show you it here, because we also can look at the individual morning, noon, afternoon, and nighttime. And so those can also give us a lot of clues. Again, I'm running out of time here to go over each thing. But look at that nighttime cortisol. It should be between 1 and 3. Cortisol is your daytime, I'm awake, I'm active, and I need blood sugar to think and to operate all my systems and stuff. So it's your daytime hormone, really. It should be much higher in the morning, and it drops down to where at nighttime it should be very low, so that you can go to sleep and recover. Sleep is so important. You don't want high cortisol at night, or you will have wakefulness. And sure enough, look at this one. It's way above the reference range, 3.8. It really should be at the bottom of that range. It's probably 2.5 times what it should be. Why? Well, that's what we find out. We find out what's driving your cortisol, what's stressing you out. And a lot of times the person says, well, no, I just was relaxing and I followed the instructions on the test kit, and I was in a kind of a darkish room for an hour before I took the cortisol. And so we know then that it's a hidden internal stressor driving that cortisol. So that's what I'm just giving you one example there of the other information we could find out. Now, by the way, look at this person's cortisol to DHEA ratio. 23.5 to 1 ratio, almost 24 to 1, and it should be 5 to 1, or 6 to 1. So it's 4 times what it should be. Very catabolic, body's breaking down, muscle wasting, brain doesn't work good, and all this stuff. So anyway, that's all the test results I can show you today on that saliva test for hormones. We'd also look at the sex hormones through saliva. Very, very important. But here's a lab we run on digestion, toxicity, and detoxification. Those are critical elements, as we went over. Another test we look at for intestinal permeability. In other words, leaky gut. How strong is the lining of your small intestine? We've all seen a dog drink dirty water, not get sick. Why? Well, you can do that a little bit too. You can actually ingest some things that aren't good for you, because your mucosal barrier has a lot of immune particles in it that would fight all that stuff. Well, we can actually see the quality of that, and why you're getting sick all the time, and why you've got junk floating all around your body causing all kinds of metabolic chaos. So it's really a cool test. And that, by the way, is a simple urine test that's like cheap. And so here's another test. This requires stool collection. We look for bugs, but it's not the bugs. Like, anyone can find bugs and treat the bugs. We treat the person. We know the bugs, but we know they're there because the neighborhood, the bugs are like, they're like the, pardon me, but they're like the bums in a ghetto. You can chase them out. You can kill them all. But they're just more going to come back if you don't clean up the neighborhood. So we focus a lot more on the neighborhood than we do on the actual pathogens in there. And last but not least, I've already gone over this. We like to run a food test on everyone for 150 foods, identify the inflammatory foods, get them out of the diet for 3 months, and then you can reintroduce some of them. And we manage that very well. And so those are the labs, the 5-6 labs that we'd run on every person that's willing, that's really at that point. What we do is customize, highly individualized, lab-guided, drugless protocols and behaviors that are geared towards producing the desired result. And you've heard me say it: diet, customized diet, the right amount of protein, fat, and carbohydrates for your genetics. Like Eskimos need more protein and fat. South American natives need more carbohydrates. So depending on your genetics, you need the right amount of protein, fat, and carbs. You need to know which ones, and you need to make sure you've eliminated those bad foods. Rest, of course, exercise, stress reduction, supplements. This system has been so successful, whether it be just on someone who wants to have more energy and lose weight, or even if it's someone with a medical condition. We have doctors now recommending FDN because it's a great holistic grounding program for those who do need medical oversight. It's so effective I had to trademark it so that only my certified practitioners can use that expression. And so it's just a neat thing. But as I said a second ago, it's not enough to run the labs. That's step 1 with the intake that we do. Step 2 is to customize the dress program. Step 3 is, guess what? You have to follow it. You have to actually follow it. Wow, what a concept. As I said with the adrenals, it takes time to restore function. So we have a coaching period. They start at 90 days to go to up to, that's 3 months. We can do a 6-month program. It just depends on the person. And you do a 3-month or a 6-month program. You make a lot of strides towards repairing your body and really having adopted this self-care model. So we behave ourselves. We're professionals. We're not just your neighbor who's giving you some advice. This is our business, if you will. And so we want you to follow, and we make sure that you do. We provide some accountability for you, open and honest feedback and these kind of things. And I like to say, I'll finish up the slide by saying, I like to say there's no power boating to health. I grew up on the Great Lakes in North America. Sailing, I've sailed on Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, and Lake Michigan. And it was sailing. My dad was a sailor. And that's what this transformational process is like. You're setting out, and you're going to have to change course here and there. And we know the coaching points on that. We know what to look for to make those little adaptations. So there's the currents in the water change, the wind in the sails change, and these kind of things. There's no such thing as, here's your program, now kick it in high gear and let's go. That's power. We're going to power a boat over to that healthy island on the other side of the lake. It just doesn't work that way. So you need this transformational process. And this is what happened with Allison. Not only did we get her hands unstuck from her forehead, she says that she was going crazy with fatigue. They thought it was just from not sleeping well. I tried all kinds of sleep products, but nothing worked for long. I was drinking coffee all day just to try to function at work. I constantly misplaced things, felt like I was in a daze. When I finally started my holistic health building program, things started to get better from the start. And I will say this to you, folks, that we know that you're headed in the right direction almost immediately when you start this program. And again, we correct course as we go. So she was able to get off all her medications, sleep through most nights. We all have a bad night once in a while, but she started really getting her sleep. Now she's focusing at work, which obviously means she's probably doing better at work. Her memory's improved. Bottom line is that she has much more energy throughout the day and can function like a quote-unquote, and Randy, tell me how many times you feel this. I feel normal finally. I finally feel normal again. So that's an amazing thing. And you might notice on this slide, and I'll just say this, that there are no guarantees. That's because we don't have control over what people do and how their body responds and what might be really serious that lurks pretty deep inside, like genetic time bombs and things like that. But otherwise, our program, don't you think there are reasonable expectations? And that's all we really need to provide is very reasonable expectations. You can expect that you're going to make some vast improvements when you do this kind of work. And to sum it up, FDN certified health coaches like Randy follow a step-by-step course of investigation. And I know we have a couple other on the line here too that might speak up. So this is a step-by-step course of investigation. Identify those hidden stressors and malfunctions. Assess the underlying causes and work on what's really wrong instead of chasing symptoms. So, and our clients, they follow this holistic path. Sometimes it's a little narrow up front, but it widens up as you go, you know. And our protocols are potent, proven, professional, and they do improve health. That's what we call dress for health success. And so, kind of because I'm winding down to the hour here and I want to leave some time for questions and answers. If you've tried multiple diets but still struggle, exercise, you don't feel like doing it, or it's not quite working, lack of focus, ability to think, slow to get started, fading fast, hard to control cravings, or if you're just on information load, you've got choices, as you've learned. And before I go on to just sort of closing and the Q&A, I want to say that you might think, well, I've already run some tests, or there's, you know, this natural guy down the road and he runs tests, or she runs tests. There's a lot of people running tests out there. Matter of fact, today, almost anyone can order labs. They're even letting the public order labs. And I'm not sure I really approve, unless they're doing it really cheap and they let me look at the labs. But a lot of health practitioners are ordering labs, but they're doing it based on symptoms, and then they're just treating the paper. The perfect example, real quick, is like thyroid. We mentioned that once. You go up there with constipation and a little tingling in the hands and feet or cold extremities. You've got your hair thinning out and falling. You're feeling the blues a lot. You don't feel like exercising. You got a few extra pounds on you and stuff like that. That sounds like thyroid to most practitioners. And so based on those symptoms, they will run a thyroid test and then pat themselves on the back. Yep, I found your problem. Low thyroid output. Here's something to bring those test results back to normal. They're actually treating the paper, you know, and they're going to use the paper to titrate. Come back in 3 months. Oh, look, we've got it just where we want. Meanwhile, you could have the same symptoms or new symptoms. You might feel a little bit better, but you know something's still wrong. And that's because they didn't treat the cause, you know, or even look at why your thyroid was low. So when those new symptoms appear, guess what? Same process. Oh, new symptoms? Oh, now it's a hormone test you need. So we're going to look at your sex hormones. Oop, yep, your testosterone's low. That's why your sex drive's no good. Here, take this shot in the butt, or we'll put this pellet in there, or we'll put some patches on you or something. You know, so they just repeat the process. It's really creating a new cycle of trial and error and does not fill the needs that you have. So I'd say they're not ending the cycle. And just to finally explain what that is, the cycle, you know, what I realized years and years and years ago was that people, remember I said in the beginning, you know, they telling me they've been to 3, 4, 5, or 8 people even. So that's a cycle. They try this diet program. They try that exercise program. They've gone to 3 different therapies. They might have even treated for parasites at one guy, and 2 years before that it was, I treated for yeast with this other guy, and different things like that. So they've been to lots of natural therapies, lots of doctors. They've spent a ton of money on what? Trial and error. So this program that I've been explaining to you is designed to stop the trial and error. So you need to put a gap in there somewhere. Go, look, let's stop chasing symptoms. Let's be good health detectives. Let's look for the underlying causes. And that's what I mean by filling the needs gap. So not saying none of those people met any of your needs. You need to diet. You need to exercise. But these are the needs. Identify hidden stressors. Repair, rebuild, restore, rebalance, function. Work on the root causes. And the client adopts a self-care model that works and tells other people. That's the beauty of it. And that's our only goal, really, is that people get healthy and spread the good word. So this is so effective that even doctors now are saying that FDN is a recommended health program. So if you go to a physician and they're saying, well, you know, I could write your prescription, or they might even say, look, I don't have a prescription for that, But they might say, I have a prescription for that, and you don't want to take it. Well, physicians need to refer out to someone like an FDN. And we're becoming very, very popular in that area. My medical director says that there should be one FDN practitioner for every 3 doctors. That means at your local hospital, where there's 200 doctors working, there would be 60 FDNs for lifestyle coaching who are running these functional labs and really doing the work. Now, one day that might happen. I mean, you never know, right? That's our goal. So these are some doctors that actually know real people who recommend us every day. Go see an FDN practitioner. So I'm coming down to the last slide before we go on to Q&A, folks. So Jen or somebody, I hope you have some questions for me. Before we end tonight, I want to make sure that just for attending, we want to give you a free gift. It's a guide. It's a guide on how to discover your own hidden stressors. And all you need to do to get that free gift is go to fdnselfcare.com/hidden stressors. fdnselfcare.com/hidden stressors. And you go to that web page right now and you can get your free guide. And if you want more information about our program, if you want to talk to a amazing person who cares about you and getting better, who will have a discussion with you about your main complaints and how long they've been going on and what have you tried so far that hasn't worked, and perhaps explain our program to you, you just email info@fdnselfcare.com and ask for an appointment. Leave your phone number and we'll give you a call back. Or you can just visit fdnselfcare.com/fdn/self-care programs. Do I have that right? fdnselfcare.com/fdn/self-care programs/self-care programs, and you'll be able to get an appointment right there on the spot.
Yep, that's correct, Reed. If anybody wants to talk to one of our FDN advisors and check out some of the self-care programs that we have, that would be the link to go to. And then from there, if you have questions about whether one of the programs is right for you, then you can schedule an appointment with one of our advisors from there too.
Fantastic. Now, guess what? We made it in under an hour. Do I get a bonus or gold star or something?
That was great. It was very informative.
I want my prize. So let's see. Well, Jen, I don't know if you got some questions, but I got a couple here.
Yeah, let's go over. I want to give people time to type in their questions. So for everybody that's on the line, if you have questions on the control panel and GoToWebinar, you can go ahead and type those questions directly in there so that we can address anything that you have specifically. Reed's going to, over the next minute or so, give you a chance to type those in. He's going to go over some frequently asked questions that we got, and then we did have some that have been coming in that we can address after that, Reed.
Okay. Well, thank you. And one of the questions we get all the time is, can my doctor run these labs? Now, I think the underlying condition here is financial concerns. Same thing with, does insurance cover these? And, people are, they're spending money on insurance and they want to get it covered. They want to save some money on labs and things. I'll tell you this, that's a bit of a tough one, because health requires concentration and investment in health. So can your doctor run these labs? He could, but does he? No. A lot of our labs are new. I mean, some labs are new and they're not being taught in medical schools. I mean, medical school is generally 20 years behind the science. So you got guys in medical school teaching right now, and it's what they learned 20 years ago. And so a lot of, again, doctors could run these, but they don't. And does insurance cover these? Sometimes it does. You can actually get lab fees paid for by insurance if you play that game right. Now, we don't bill insurance for you. We're independent health coaches. So our fees are paid in cash. We charge people very fair fees to do the coaching program, to run the labs, to create the dress program, and to run the transformation process with you, whether it be a 90-day or 6-month or whatever it is. So we have fees for that are not covered by insurance. You're going to pay out of pocket for that. As for the labs, sometimes you certainly we don't have any trouble getting those paid for by health savings accounts. So you have insurance and also some money you've put away in a health savings account that's tax-free dollars, then you can use those. So those questions that are centered on money are a bit hard for us because we earn our keep. We work very, very hard, and of course, this is what we do for a living. So sometimes clients have to have a house sale, generate a few dollars or something like that. Just start making health your priority and be willing to invest in it. I'm sure you're paying for your gym membership and your supplements and things. So put it in that category. Now the other thing about how long does it last? The minimum is 90 days, up to 6 months. Now, how long does it take to do the labs? If you ordered the labs, you'll have them. They'll go in the mail the next day. I mean, the shipping is amazing. Our customer service department is just fantastic. Not sure if Jessica could answer that question for us. If you're talking to one of the people on the phone right now, and they decide to go ahead and hire us as their health coaches and health detectives, the labs go in the mail the next day, correct? And by the time they get it and get the labs all done, was it take 2 weeks or something, or a week to get all the labs done?
That's correct, Reed. Yeah, usually we're in touch and getting them set up and the labs sent out within 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And the initial kits will go out. So as long as they're running them, when they get it, we should have results back within 2 weeks.
Exactly, because some of the labs, and that's really not up to us, it's the labs, and we're not the lab, we're just facilitating. So the labs will get us the results, and then we'll be able to have that. I'm talking about a power consultation when we're using those labs to guide us. I call it cooking with gas. Another question we get, and you might all be thinking, how do I sign up? Well, I'm going to go back to the previous slide. Just go to, if you go to info, if you send an email to Jessica, who you just heard from, at info@iftyandselfcare.com with your phone number, she'll call you tomorrow and get you going, like get your kits out in the mail to you. So, but you can also visit, there's a process, you fill out a form on selfcare.com /FDN/selfcare programs. Anything come through for us, Jen?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions. I just wanted to expand on to read the question of insurance. Is that, one of the big kind of waves in the insurance industry, a lot of employers are doing a health savings account for employees. So if you have a health savings account with a health savings credit card, you can definitely pay for your lab work that way. So that can help to offset the cost there as well. There's also FSA, which would be the flex savings, which is different. So it would have to be an HSA, a health savings account, where it's an actual credit card that you contribute to, and the employer would contribute as well to that. So that can help out. Also, just to, with the lab question too, just to add on to that a little bit, is that once the lab receives the results, or receives your samples, it usually takes about 7 to 10 business days to turn it around. So that's showing you kind of how quick it can be, and some of it's dependent on how quickly you send in the samples for us to be able to do that. And then I think, Jessica, we have some questions here that you've been addressing, so if you want to hand those over, and if you guys have more questions, you can still be typing that into the questions box. So Jessica, what kind of questions have you been getting in over there?
The first question came through from Maureen, and she says, her question is, I've had cortisol checked, but not with saliva, as she lives in New York State. So it's only a blood test, and it keeps coming back normal. And she wants to know, Reed, is there a difference, and why saliva?
Yeah, there's a huge difference. Cortisol results in blood. I don't find them very useful at all, unless they were really, really low. So about the only thing you can detect with a serum or blood cortisol test is if your adrenal glands are like gone completely, what we call Addison's disease, which is basically an autoimmune disease where your body attacks the adrenals, and then you'd be almost near death, because you can't live without your adrenal glands. They make too many hormones that are way too important. So if you had Addison's disease, you could detect that on a blood test, but shy of that, they're really not going to tell you much. For another thing, we need your cortisol morning, noon, afternoon, and nighttime, because we're checking the circadian rhythm, the daily rhythm that cortisol should be going. It tells us a lot about you. And who's going to go get a blood draw 4 times? Where are you going to get your blood draw at 8 in the morning, noon, go back at 4 in the afternoon, and go there at 10 o'clock at night? I mean, just driving there at 10 o'clock at night is going to drive your cortisol up, So you just can't do what we do with serum. And there's other things technically about, the bioavailability, like what's floating around in your bloodstream is free cortisol, and it could be actually pretty high. But because of, the immediate stressors, but what's filtered through into the saliva is much more your baselines, the stable amounts, and what we call bioavailable or usable cortisol. It's the same thing with the sex hormones. We prefer saliva for them too. And urine is very good. But that one test is saliva. It also makes it very convenient. You do it at home, and you mail it in the next day. The lab fees are, I would say, reasonable. And so there's a lot of advantages to saliva. It's a great question, though.
Great. The next question is from Angela. She has a couple of them. The first part of this was, what are some of the most common root causes that you find, and do you address them with herbs, supplements, lifestyle advice, etc.?
Yeah, great question. So we look for dysfunction in the hormones, the immune system, digestion, detoxification. It could be just a clogged liver and what have you. We don't use drugs. That's number one. We dread surgery, God forbid. So what we do is that entire dress for health success program. So everybody has got to eat. So might as well, let us tell you what the right amounts of protein, fat, and carbs are. Get the foods you're sensitive to out of your diet and things like that. So, and also when you eat and how much you eat is very, very important. So we're going to give you a plan for diet, and then resting and getting to bed and getting a good night's sleep and using sleep hygiene. This is a very important part of that process that I told you about. So diet and rest. Now what's next? Exercise. You got to move your body. Some people are exercising too much. Some people are not enough. So we're going to coach you up. It might be aerobics you need to do, build up that cardiopulmonary. Might be that you just need to strengthen weights and things. So we're going to take a look and see what the best thing for you is in terms of exercise. The biggies, and you mentioned supplements. Yeah, they're important. You shouldn't have to take a lot of supplements forever, but sometimes supplements are very useful to get your digestion back to normal, to get your liver cleared up, to get the immune system quieted down or stimulated. Same thing with the adrenals and the hormones and all these things. So supplements are important. And another big area in terms of lifestyle is the stress reduction. So there's coaching on that too. Because remember, it's like sailing that ship. We're gonna give you the customized dress program. Then we're gonna coach you up on using it, and you're gonna have access to your health coach. You're gonna meet once a week. Matter of fact, if you can't meet once a week, something wrong with your lifestyle. If you can't meet your health coach for an hour on the phone or Skype, you don't have to go to the office. We're just gonna do a telecoaching once a week initially. Then it can go to every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, what have you. Depends on what's going on with you. But that's the whole thing. It's an entire holistic program. Dress for health success.
The last question we had was also from Angela Reed, and she wants to know which labs we use.
Yeah, various labs. I like BioHealth Laboratories, Oxford Biomedical. Those are a couple top labs. Genova, we use Cyrex, we use, depends. But the 5 basic labs, we only need three lab companies, and we have those accounts. We get those kits right out to you. I can call up the lab right now and have it shipped out. Actually it's past 5 o'clock, but I have kits shipped same day sometimes. If I'm talking to you in the morning and you register as one of my new clients, then labs are going in the mail that day. That you could get them in 2 days and start. So that's something I've been working on for well over 15 years, is developing those lab relationships so that me and my FDN practitioners can get those out to you. So if that was the last one, I want to say thank you a million for attending, everybody, and just say that you got a free gift. At least go get that. Read up on how to discover your hidden stressors, and that'll answer some of those questions that were being asked. Email Jessica, who you just heard. Give her your phone number. Say, hey, yeah, call me. I'm ready to get started first thing tomorrow morning. And then again, if nothing else, visit and get some more information from the fdnselfcare.com/fdn/selfcare programs. And thanks a million. Randy, thank you so much. You didn't get a word in edgewise there at the end.
I was going to ask you one last quick question.
Yeah, okay.
Are there any, with the lab work, are there state issues depending upon where you are with what labs you can use? Because I've run into that in the past.
Yeah, only in your state, Randy.
My state, right? It's
Yeah.
a crazy state.
And so, I mean, it's the only one. New York has oppressive regulations, and we have, remember, I'm not the lab. So I'm a health coach, and I teach a certification course to other health coaches. So obviously, I work with labs who are able to do some business in New York. And so, you can talk to our healthcare coach about that, but that is an issue for some people. But only in New York and only some of the labs. So
That's what I thought.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair question. But thank you so much, Randy. You're a pleasure to work with, and I know that you're doing amazing things there in New York.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for your time and sharing your expertise with people on the phone, for the people that got onto the call and onto the webinar, and then, we'll share it with the people that signed up but didn't get to get on.
Yeah, you'll send out the replay. Well, thank you for that. Thank you, Jen, and thank you, Jessica, for being on. And God bless everybody. Good job.